agricultural issues, we're power. Here in Texas, we want to bring in some of these data farms. We don't have enough power. Our power grid's not strong enough to bring that stuff in. So there's all kinds of interesting things that aren't necessarily what you would think of as land markets.
A lot of people are buying to get out of the city. So we get, a lot of locals actually, but, they're used to living in, a shoebox, or, you're measuring the lot by square footage, where we'll go get you some acreage. And typically older demographic, someone's going to build a retirement home, something like that. As you get further away from town, you'll start getting more of the recreational ranches. Hunting is obviously big in our area. The Llano area is known for their deer. A lot of stuff going on out there.
So we got to discuss rural land considerations for renewable energy projects, which is an ever-developing and growing industry in Texas. And of course, Texas is a leader in the United States of renewable energy production. So we had an attorney that represents landowners talk about negotiations and contract considerations. We had a solar developer talk about that solar perspective of what kind of land they look for when they're developing projects. And then we had a policy person who talked about some of the regulation and policy that goes on around renewable energy. He talked specifically about decommissioning, which is a very interesting and big worry in renewable energy. And Texas actually has a statute that decommissioning has to be in the contract, and it has to have funding. So you aren't going to end up with a solar farm grave, a wind turbine grave on your property.
That we really haven't seen a big change in the prices of land because, as people say, they're not making any more of it. So, a supply and demand aspect there. So we're still seeing a lot of demand for the lands. Even with the higher interest rates, we haven't seen the prices come down near as much, but we have seen more flexibility in negotiations, when making offers on properties.
Oklahoma and Texas have been quite interesting because when Texas was really slow last year, Oklahoma kept a steady pace with the market. We were constantly just steady closing things, but also the land prices are a lot different up there. Where Texas is almost, in some places, you price people out. They could go and buy the same 200 acres they were going to buy here and buy 1,000 acres in Oklahoma, which is, a lot more land, obviously, but they have a lot more depending on where you go. A farmer cattle rancher aspect in southwestern Oklahoma, and then your hunting side on your southeastern side, and it kind of just varies. It's been an interesting market to tap into, to be honest.
I get an opportunity. I'm here in the hallways. I get to talk to a lot of friends who are doing different things, who are telling me what they're seeing, what they're doing. For example, right now, data centers. There's a lot of greenfield development in data centers. A year ago it was batteries, 2 years ago it was batteries. People were telling me where their ranch work or their buying and selling of ranch properties were being used for batteries, or being used for wind farms, or being used for solar fields. So it gives me another input from what I'm seeing, not just from the industry side, from the oil and gas energy side, but seeing it from the landholder side, the supplier of those resources. What's happening? Are we really seeing as many solar fields being put up? Are we really seeing as much production in oil and gas happening? Well, if you're from Midland, maybe yes. If you're from South Texas, maybe no.
We were looking at growth maps yesterday that showed huge 11-20% increases in some area and then loss of 10 to 20% in others. So being able, that sounds negative, but having that big variety of what the state can do, I think allows us to stay in that stronghold of being able to diversify, and even when the northeast part of Texas is struggling, fortunately some of the south and the hill country might be thriving a little bit, so at least balancing us out as a whole.
Politics. A lot of this is sort of flavored by politics, since we got an awful lot of stuff happening. And I pity the poor economists that are trying to do projections, because who knows?